with our host, Emily.
Good evening, everyone. In tonight's show, we take an in-depth look at the newest, most innovative creations in the fields of science and technology, which have forever changed the war as we used to know it. What started out as an attempt to stay out of foreign affairs turned into a fully involved war being fought on two fronts. With the passing of the Neutrality Act, it appeared as though we'd be out of foreign affairs, as this act prevented us from giving any materials to any country fighting in the war. Our involvement slowly became more active as the Lend-Lease Act was put into place. This allowed the United States to lend materials to countries who were vital to our defense. Then came the cash and carry provision, which allowed the United States to sell materials to countries in exchange for cash. The Selective Training and Service Act showed us rapidly building up our army as millions of men were drafted into the military at this time. Next came the Atlantic Charter, which was created in 1941, with President Roosevelt and British Prime Minister Winston Churchill writing out the causes for which World War II was being fought for. This was technically written before we even entered the conflict, but our involvement in the war was soon to be inevitable. German U-boats sank U.S. ships in a series of attacks in 1941, and finally, on December 7, 1941, we were ruthlessly attacked by the Japanese at Pearl Harbor. Now we have been forced to fight a war on two fronts, fighting the Japanese in the Pacific and aiding the Allies in Europe. New technological advances have now been created. These technological advancements have been monumental in progressing in the war. The radar and sonar were monumental inventions that were highly successful and efficient. These inventions were not only successful at this time, but they have also encouraged other inventions to arise, such as pesticides for soldiers to fight off insects, as well as drugs such as penicillin to help those who have been wounded. These creations were highly innovative and very successful in helping soldiers fighting in the war, as these inventions overall improved the soldiers' defensive acts in the war. President Roosevelt has created the Office of Scientific Research and Development, also known as the OSRD. One of our very own interviewers has landed an up-close interview with the President of the United States himself, President Franklin Roosevelt. Let's take it over to our interviewer Hannah as we learn about the recent scientific and technological advancements.
I'm Hannah Miller here with the President Roosevelt. What have you done to include the scientists in the war?
Our government has created the Office of Scientific Research and Development, and it's been responsible for a lot of the Allied victories against the Axis powers, and I do believe it'll be the determining factor on our victory in this war.
Any new advances or technology that have helped the war effort?
A lot of the advances we have been in sonar and radar. Sonar for our naval forces and radar for our air forces. And then we've also had the creation of DDT, which has allowed many of our military forces to be lice-free.
How does radar and sonar help our Navy and Air Forces?
Radar has assisted our Air Forces in preventing aerial raids and air attacks so that they're able to see it coming, and it prevents the surprise attacks. And also for sonar, for our naval forces, allows them to locate Axis subs before they reach our submarines.
I've heard that some miracle drugs have been made. Can you elaborate on this?
Our miracle drugs are known as penicillin, and they've helped with a lot of pain relief and sanitation for a lot of our amputees and head injuries on our soldiers.
With all these new advancements, do you think they have affected the outcome of the war?
I do believe that they have had a lot of impact on how our war is going to come out. I think we're going to emerge victorious from this war. We have new developments on a new war weapon which could end this war instantaneously, and I am unable to give you a lot of details on this right now. However, I do believe that it could end the war.
Thank you for your time, President Roosevelt.
You're welcome.
German scientists have been working with our very own American scientists to create a secret project known as the Manhattan Project, which is being kept tightly under wraps. The National Committee of Uranium has also been created to make new scientific discoveries. But we don't know much about these projects. We've had sources tell us that these projects will be life-changing and will highly affect the outcome of the war. We've landed an interview with somebody who is very knowledgeable about this project and knows inside information that has not been revealed yet. Let's bring it over to Hannah once more to interview our very special guest.
It's Hannah again with our special guest. Now, I've heard from some unnamed sources about a Manhattan Project. Anything to say about that?
So, it's not right to say anything about it because we're not so sure. Nothing has been done actually. But we have been doing some chemical experiments and we've been seeing the effects of them. So, that might help with our progress in the war maybe.
Now, do you think that this Manhattan Project could help the war effort and maybe our chances of winning the war?
You see, our chances of winning the war and also the other allied countries depends on how fast enough we can get an end to the war. because there has been a lot of loss since it started, and there will be more. And the aftermath of it will be a loss to both sides of the war. So we're planning and we're hoping to get surrender of our enemy by this project. We're just doing some researches on it to see what will be.
Thank you for this inside information. It's been a pleasure interviewing you.
Thank you so much.
Well, we have taken an inside look at the scientific and technological improvements in efforts to help during the war. Science and technology have forever changed the war, making it much more modern and advanced. Before these inventions, soldiers in the war could not simply shoot down their enemy with the use of a radar, fight off insects, or rely on drugs to save their lives. But now, soldiers can shoot down their enemies with the use of a radar, attack their underwater opponents with the use of the sonar, fight off insects and remain lice-free with the use of pesticides such as DDT, and save a countless number of lives with the use of miracle drugs such as penicillin. Roosevelt has created the Office of Scientific Research and Development, as well as the formation of the National Committee of Uranium, to get scientists more involved and to make science a huge part of this war. Finally, the most mysterious project that is taking place right now is that of the Manhattan Project. According to scientists, we now have the ability to end the war with one project, something that we never thought was even possible or could ever happen. Thank you for tuning in to this special edition of 60 Minutes, Science and Technology in the War. From the rest of us here at the 60 Minutes News team, we'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching and have a wonderful evening, America.